and welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Marvelous Joe.
And I'm his twin brother, Johnny DC.
And in this episode, it's a duel episode, we are going to learn who would win in a fight between Robotman from the Doom Patrol team and The Thing from the Fantastic Four. Now, why are we doing this particular matchup now? Well, it's because Doom Patrol Season 2 will have its final episode coming out today, I believe, and we will be reviewing that show next week. So we thought that this duel would be a good lead up to that Season 2 review coming up in our next episode.
And this episode is also in lead up to our 200th episode, when we will be pitting the JSA against the Fantastic Four, of which The Thing is a member.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that episode. That'll be out in November. It'll be the classic DC team against the classic Marvel team. Look forward to the fight later on this episode as we run 1,000 simulations on the characters using their statistics. But before that, we're going to go over the comic book movie news from the past week, of which, there wasn't much news. Allegedly, Haley Steinfeld has been confirmed to be playing Kate Bishop in the upcoming Hawkeye Disney Plus television series, but that came from a kind of sketch source, so we're going to go ahead and wait on the official announcement about that from Marvel before we discuss it. So really, the only news that came out in the past week is the announcement that there will be a Batman Death in the Family animated film that's coming out in October, and that really came out of left field, but we'll be talking about that.
Yeah, it was a slow news week, and on the DC end, I imagine it's going to be slow all the way up until the DC Fandom event at the end of this month.
As always, we list our segment times in our episode description, so feel free to check out the show notes if you want to skip ahead to a particular topic.
Just a quick reminder, guys, to please subscribe to our show if you haven't already, and if you have, please help us grow our podcast audience by giving us a rating or review on whatever platform you're listening to us on, or by sharing us with your fellow DC and Marvel fans.
Yeah, you can share us on social media, digitally, or in person.
My favorite thing is to stealth airdrop the podcast to random people that are around me.
That's a good tactic. But with that out of the way,
quick to the No Prize. So a No Prize is an award that Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award that we post on social media that I personally draw for those who we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week.
Yeah, last week's question was coming off the short clip that we received from JusticeCon that showed Superman in his alternate black outfit that's going to appear in Zack Snyder's Justice League cut that's going to be on HBO Max next year.
So we asked, what's your favorite alternate superhero suit of a Marvel or DC character that you hope to one day see on screen?
And we got so many great quality answers for this particular question. It's such a shame. If you guys listen to our last episode, you know that we're getting so many answers now that it's just becoming too much. We're not able to go through them all just due to time constraints. So what we did is we each picked our top 3 answers as well as a winner for this week's No Prize question.
My first honorable mention goes to Jeff Miles Jr., who said that he would like to see the White Lantern Corps suit, which, yes, the first Green Lantern movie didn't do a good enough job of establishing the whole emotional spectrum and all the different corps that are out there. I mainly chose this answer because I can't wait until we finally get to see things like Black Lanterns and White Lanterns on screen.
I just want to see a good Green Lantern in live action.
Whatever.
My first honorable mention goes to Joel Seagrave, who said that he wants to see the Wolverine X-Force Strike Team suit. And that was the black and gray suit that Wolverine wore when he was the leader of X-Force. It's pretty similar to his orange and brown suit, except it's black and gray, real dark and stealthy, and he had red eyes. It was amazing. It was pretty cool looking.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah. I guess I just like the idea of the movies spinning off a Strike Team X-Force movie with Deadpool and Archangel and Psylocke and Wolfsbane and all those guys. I think that would be awesome.
That would be cool. My second honorable mention goes to Nightwing Superman, who said that he wanted to see the Donna Troy Black Rebirth suit on screen. For most of her superhero career, Donna Troy has always kind of worn this unitard of sorts. But in Rebirth, they gave her shoulder pads and a shield, and it looked much more like armor. Sort of in keeping with Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman armor, from the first film that made its way into the comics. Side by side, the Donna Troy Rebirth and Wonder Woman costumes look really well together.
My second honorable mention goes to Bruce Flansburgh, who said that he wants to see the Kane Scarlet Spider suit. Now, Kane is a clone of Peter Parker who was created by the Jackal. This clone version of Spider-Man was an imperfect clone, but he became a badass character in his own right, and his version of the Scarlet Spider outfit is just amazing. It's probably my favorite Spider-Man outfit out of every single iteration of Spider-Man out there. There's no, like, webbing pattern on it. It's basically an all-red suit with a big black Spider-Man logo. His mask is black. His eyes are all red, and he has, like, other black embellishments like black shoulders and black fists, so, yeah.
My third honorable mention goes to Sana Farhumand, who said that he wanted to see the Batman Hellbat suit, which is sort of like borderline like Iron Man armor. He uses it to go up against like extremely powerful foes such as Darkseid. The whole suit is like this black armor, and he has like this red visor, like bat visor, and a red bat logo on his chest. He also has like these huge metallic wings. It's awesome. It's really cool.
You'd have to think that if Zack Snyder ever got his Justice League sequel, that's the suit that they would use for Batman, considering that was supposed to be the movie where the League took the fight to Apocalypse.
Right, yeah. It would have been perfect.
My final honorable mention goes to Ken Johnson, who said that he wants to see the Cosmic Ghost Rider suit, which, fuck
really?
Yes. Basically, Cosmic Ghost Rider is from an alternate dimension. He's actually Frank Castle, the Punisher, who died and then sold his soul to Mephisto to continue fighting evil, and he was given the powers of Ghost Rider, at which point he chases Thanos out into space and is bestowed by Galactus with this cool, like, space bike. It's amazing. Cosmic Ghost Rider kind of looks like regular Ghost Rider, except he has this huge, like, shoulder armor, and his fiery skull is, like, contained within, like, this glass dome helmet, because he's out in space.
Ah, yeah.
He's just badass incarnate, and if we ever got to see that in live action, I know I could die happy.
Before we reveal the winners of this week's No Prize, we want to give a special thank you to Avmail, Michael Haggerty, Calvin John Della Merced, Isaiah Bethune, John Speas, Josiah Rodriguez, Elise Jensen, Calvin Mims, Jeremy Orr, Mincemeat Mouse, Jacob Bell, Miggy Manangiahan, Salvador Martinez, and Matt Gonzalez for all contributing answers. Thank you guys.
But now it's time for the No Prize.
Congratulations to Jorg Bailey, who said he wanted to see the Lex Luthor green armor suit, which, yes, Lex Luthor has been the villain in so many Superman films, but we have yet to see him pose the threat he poses in the comics when he wears essentially an Iron Man suit.
Yeah, powered with kryptonite.
It's perfect. Why haven't they done this yet? If they're gonna put Lex Luthor in the next Superman film, when they make another Superman film, he has to be in the green armor. Anything else is just unacceptable.
Totally agree. Yeah, I really like that suit. I'd like to give a congratulations to Christian Rabito, who I'm giving the No Prize to for his answer of the Cyclops 90s suit. How many movies have we seen the character of Cyclops in, and we still have yet to see him portrayed in his classic X-Men getup?
They got close at the end of X-Men Apocalypse.
Right, and I wish they would have carried that forward. When I finally get the chance to see Cyclops in live action, wearing his 90s X-Men suit, that's when I'll know that they finally got the X-Men right.
And you just may see it with Marvel Studios.
That's the hope. I mean, I would also settle for like the Astonishing X-Men outfit, or I guess I would even settle for the X-Visor red outfit. But the outfit I want to see of Cyclops the most is the blue 90s outfit one with the yellow pouches.
Congrats once again to Jorg Bailey and Christian Rabito. You guys win this week's No Prize. If you, the listener, want to win your own No Prize, stay tuned to later on in the episode when we'll ask another question of the week.
And now that that's done,
on to the news. Okay, so last week, again, out of nowhere, Warner Brothers revealed, I think it was through IGN, that they will be releasing a animated short titled Batman Death in the Family before the end of the year, on October 13th. Now, this will be another DC Showcase collection, sort of like the way they released the Superman/Shazam Return of Black Adam video. They're going to do the same thing with this. So not only are we going to get Batman Death in the Family, but we're also going to get animated shorts for Sergeant Rock, Death, Adam Strange, and the Phantom Stranger. What's interesting about the Death in the Family animated short is that it's a prequel of sorts to what is probably DC's most acclaimed and beloved animated film, Batman Under the Red Hood. When I first saw the trailer for this, in fact, I was super confused because a lot of the footage comes straight from Under the Red Hood. But that's because the Blu-ray version of this film is going to be interactive, sort of like a choose-your-own-adventure experience. It looks like once the animated short plays out, you get three choices. Either Jason Todd cheats death and saves himself, Batman saves Robin, or Robin dies. And from there, you get 3 different scenarios where you get to make even more choices later on in the film.
Yeah, it looks like one of the later choices is involving Two-Face, which seems pretty cool because he flips a coin and then you get to decide whether it landed on heads or tails, which is fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's perfect. And, this is all in keeping sort of with the call-in vote that comic book readers got to make to decide whether or not Jason Todd lived in the comic in the 80s. And that itself was sort of like a choose-your-own-adventure kind of story because of the decision that the fans got to vote on. They, of course, voted for him to die in sort of a hilarious story that we talk about in our Red Hood versus Punisher episode. But I thought it was really clever that Warner Brothers decided to take this route with this story specifically.
Yeah, it's pretty brilliant. It looks like, and I'm just guessing here, if you choose to save Robin, Jason Todd becomes Red Robin. If you let him die, he becomes Red Hood. And if he manages to save himself, he becomes a version of the character Hush.
Right, which is pretty cool because he's sort of like tangentially related to Hush and Red Robin in a way.
Now, the digital release of this film, though, which is the one that I'm going to get because I don't have a Blu-ray player, that doesn't have the interactive version where you get to choose your own adventure. Basically, it comes with just 3 different versions of the movie itself. And they're titled Jason Todd's Rebellion, Robin's Revenge, and Red Hood's Reckoning.
And I imagine Red Hood's Reckoning is pretty close to Under the Red Hood.
Yeah. You would think that with all those short animated films involved in this story, that it would kind of add up to one full-length animated film. So I'm surprised that they're including all these other DC animated shorts. Like, this Batman Death in the Family movie must be really short to warrant the inclusion of all the other films. We're talking like maybe 10, 15 minutes tops.
Well, yeah, that's in keeping with all of the other DC Showcase shorts.
Yeah.
I think the longest one so far has actually been Superman/Shazam, and that was maybe just a little bit over 20 minutes.
It's kind of a shame that we'll be reviewing this one before we even get a chance to review Batman Under the Red Hood, though.
I know. Yeah, that kind of kills me because I've been waiting to review that film. We almost did back when we did the Red Hood versus Punisher episode, but there just wasn't room in the schedule for it.
Yeah, we'll make sure to get that one squeezed into the schedule as soon as we can, because it's absolutely my favorite Batman animated movie. Do you have a Blu-ray player in order to do this interactive stuff?
I don't. I made the jump straight from DVD to streaming, so I've never had one.
That's too bad. I hope it doesn't affect our review of the film. But I really like the fact that they're going interactive with this. I want to see them incorporate that kind of interactivity to more visual mediums.
Usually I'm not a big fan of that. Like, I've tried it a few times. Like, there was like the Sharon Stone movie called Mosaic that was like a murder mystery. Of course, Black Mirror did it with Bandersnatch. Sometimes I just want to watch a movie. Like, if I wanted to play a video game, I would play a video game. Again, I do think it's clever here because of the storyline and because the storyline has a history of fan input. But otherwise, normally I'm like, just tell me a story. I'm not sure I'm too inclined to go out and buy a Blu-ray player and then buy the Blu-ray just to experience this, interactivity.
Usually when it comes to the choose your own adventure options, I usually pick the most fucked up one.
What?
Like, yes, I do want to know what the lava tastes like.
And then you die. Then you have to start over.
Yep. I try to die every single way and then go back and then play, the main story.
Because that's a good way to experience all the different options.
So I'm totally letting Jason Todd die.
Well, then that's just the normal storyline then.
Oh, boring. They're messing with my system.
I'm like the opposite. I don't want anyone to die. I want to choose the right path from the get-go and not have to bother with all the other wrong choices. But speaking of choices, that brings us to our question of the week.
Choose your path. Johnny DC and Marvelous Joe are falling off a cliff. You can only save one. Who do you choose to save and why?
Dun dun dun! Our podcast just got interactive.
No mean answers, please. My fragile heart won't be able to take it.
I don't know, I think we're kind of setting ourselves up for that.
But post your answer to our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or email us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com. We'll pick our favorite answer and draw that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to social media. But that does it for all of the news for this episode, so let's go ahead and get into our main event, where we find out who would win in a fight between the Doom Patrol character, Robotman, and the Fantastic Four character, Thing. All right, Robotman versus Thing. One's made out of steel, one's made out of stone. Both of them have very big unibrows.
I thought you were going to say something else.
What?
I don't know.
No, unibrows. I have no idea about their other parts.
I do. Robotman doesn't have a dick.
Is that established?
Yeah.
I think actually Stanley did do an interview where he said that the Thing does have a rock-like thing, which makes the Fantafour movie even more total bullshit.
Oh, because he doesn't wear pants in that one?
Right, exactly. Anyway, such a weird start to this Duel episode. But both of these guys are somewhat tragic characters who have super strength. We thought they would go well against each other in a duel match.
One could argue that Robotman was heavily inspired by the Thing, almost so to be considered a knockoff. Although, I think Robotman has really become his own character. It's pretty well established that the Doom Patrol is kind of a knockoff of the Fantastic Four. So when we determined that we had to do an episode with the Thing, Robotman was my first choice.
Yeah, and I'm excited for this one. I love both of these characters, and it'll be interesting to learn about both of them and see who would win. If you've never listened to one of our Duel episodes before, the way we determine a winner between these two characters is by running 1,000 Monte Carlo simulations using the character's statistics. What's a Monte Carlo simulation, you may ask? Well, it's a probabilistic model used to determine outcomes through random sampling.
In our case, it randomizes statistics along a normal distribution, which is a bell curve, as a way to simulate the many variables that can occur during battle. The stat parameters we used are based on the official Marvel Power Grid, and we use that criteria to extrapolate the DC character stats. We've included some additional stat categories of our own, such as range, damage, potential, and perception, in order to make a more complete and robust simulation.
Running these 1,000 simulations gives us a percentage of wins for each character, and we declare the one with the higher percentage to be the ultimate victor, given that they're more likely to win any given battle. No character ever wins 100% of the time. Like, comics have shown that there's always a way for Batman to defeat Superman, for example, though according to our numbers, he'd only win 7.9% of the time. We feel our method falls in line with the precedents that have been established in the comic book stories.
And we use this method because it was the least subjective, most unbiased way to determine who would win. Of course, we're both heavily biased toward our respective allegiances, and instead of debating these matches forever, we just let math decide for us. So there's no fan votes here, and no relying on just feats.
Before we run the simulations, though, we'd like to break down each character's histories and abilities before improvising a scenario on how we imagine one of the 1,000 simulations would play out beat for beat. And I think, Jonathan, it's your turn to go first, so let's go ahead and hear all about the backstory of Robotman.
So before he was Robotman, he was Clifford Steele, a professional race car driver who also enjoyed adventuring around the world, climbing Mount Everest or rafting the Amazon River when he wasn't on the racetrack. His daredevil attitude served him well in life, until his race car slid through an oil slick during the Indianapolis 500, causing it to tumble and explode. Cliff died in the explosion, though his brain was salvaged by the scientist Dr. Niles Calder, aka the Chief, who volunteered to save Cliff's life by transferring his brain into a robotic body of the Chief's design. The transplant was a success, and Cliff woke up in the hospital in his new body. Driven insane by the news of his death and current circumstances, Cliff went on a destructive rampage until the Chief appeared, claiming that Cliff's behavior was the result of faulty wiring. The Chief promised to fix the wiring if Cliff went with him, which Cliff did. When Cliff awoke from his repair, the Chief offered him a place on a team of misfits he had assembled to help fight evil, and Cliff agreed to join as Robotman, forming the original Doom Patrol roster with Elastigirl and Negative Man, both of whom you can learn more about in the respective Duel episodes against Miss Marvel and Cyclops, respectively. From their island headquarters, the team fought alongside the Chief against the likes of the Brotherhood of Evil, until two of its members, Madame Rogue and Captain Zal, set up bombs on the Doom Patrol's island and in the small fishing village of Codsville, Maine, population 14. Cliff and the other original members of the Doom Patrol agreed to sacrifice themselves rather than the innocent citizens of Codsville, and Robotman's artificial body was destroyed in the explosion. The original team members were presumed dead for nearly a decade. However, it was revealed that Cliff's brain, like before, had been salvaged from the wreckage of the explosion by Dr. William Magnus and placed in a new robotic body. You can learn more about Dr. Magnus in our Metalman vs. Colossus episode. Robotman returned to the Doom Patrol's original base, only to find a new team of heroes going by the name Doom Patrol, made up of Negative Woman, Tempest, and Celsius, the latter of whom claimed to be the Chief's long-lost wife. Though he initially felt the new team hadn't earned the right to use the name Doom Patrol, Robotman eventually joined the team to help stop one of the original team's enemies, General Immortus, and to help them find the Chief, whom Celsius believed was still alive. Robotman at one point teamed up with Elastigirl's adopted son, Beast Boy, to track down Madame Rogue and Captain Zal and avenge the deaths of the other original members of the Doom Patrol. Robotman and Beast Boy succeeded in finding them, and in the confrontation, Captain Zal was killed when his bullets ricocheted off of Robotman's metal chassis and into himself. You can learn more about Beast Boy in our Beast Boy vs. Beast episode. During the Invasion storyline, when an alliance of aliens attempted to eliminate Earth's metahumans, a majority of the new Doom Patrol members were killed, including their leader, Celsius. Robotman survived and, unable to deal with the grief of losing another Doom Patrol team, checked himself into a mental institution to cope with his depression. The Chief, revealed to have survived the Doom Patrol Island explosion thanks to a force field in his wheelchair, had Dr. Magnus create a new robotic body for Cliff, one capable of synthesizing sensory input to help Robotman cope. Dr. Magnus also introduced Robotman to Crazy Jane, to provide clarity to Cliff that there were others in a worse off state than him. Cliff became Jane's guardian and eventually fell in love with her, though over time, his new robotic body became self-aware and attempted to destroy Cliff's brain. His brain was kept in a jar while his body was repaired, but the leader of the Brotherhood of Evil, the Brain, who was also a disembodied brain housed in a robotic shell, attempted to take control over Cliff's robot body. Those safety measures caused that body to self-destruct before the brain could successfully do so. The Chief created a new body for Cliff shortly before Cliff learned that the Chief was responsible for causing his race car accident, and the accidents of the other original Doom Patrol members as well. After paralyzing Cliff's body using a failsafe word, the Chief told Cliff the entire story as he downloaded Cliff's mind into his computer. The Candlemaker, a villain released by Doom Patrol member Dorothy Spinner, killed the Chief and destroyed Cliff's brain, which was soon replaced with a floppy disk containing Cliff's mind. Robotman left the planet with other members of the Doom Patrol on Danny the Street, which is a sentient, genderqueer street. The team eventually returned, and Cliff started a new relationship with teammate Kate Godwin, aka Coagula, and Dorothy's imaginary friends recreated Cliff's old brain. Years later, Robotman sold the name and rights of the Doom Patrol to a billionaire named Thayer Jost, the CEO of Jost Corporation, who wanted to control his own corporate-sponsored super team. That Robotman turned out to be an imaginary manifestation of Dorothy, who was comatose after suffering a nervous breakdown that destroyed both Robotman and Coagula when she thought the Doom Patrol was abandoning her during the team's breakup. The imaginary version of Robotman vanished when he realized he wasn't real, and the remaining members of the corporate team found the remains of the real Robotman in the Smoky Mountains. Rebuilt, the real Robotman denied Thayer Jost the rights to the Doom Patrol, and, after heartbreaking consideration, Cliff decided to pull the comatose Dorothy off of life support. Before the Flashpoint event that rebooted DC continuity, Robotman reunited with Elastigirl and Negative Man and led a new version of the Doom Patrol. Post-Flashpoint, the Doom Patrol formed in much the same way they did originally, though Lex Luthor was able to deduce and reveal that the team's accidents were caused by the Chief much sooner in the team's history. The team remained together, and after the events of Milk Wars, when an omnipotent organization known as Retcon rebooted Superman to be Milkman Man, who forced you to drink your milk, turned Batman into Father Bruce, the caretaker of an orphanage of Robins, and changed Wonder Woman into Wonder Wife, who did everything in service of her husband, Steve Trevor. Once retcon was stopped, reality was corrected, except for members of the Doom Patrol, including Robotman, who regained his human body, becoming Clifford Steele once again. Now, Robotman has had numerous robotic bodies over the course of his history, some of which have been fitted with devices that grant him extra abilities, including flight, shapeshifting, energy emission, and even self-duplication. These extra abilities have always been temporary, however, so he won't have them in this match. What is consistent throughout all of his incarnations are his strength and durability. He can lift around 25 tons, and his body is made of a ceramic polymer metal of the Chief's design. In his first appearance, and in most lists of his abilities, he also has a self-repair system, coils in his palms, like a stove, that can generate heat hot enough to melt even the strongest of metals, and he has electromagnetic plates in the soles of his feet that allow him to scale buildings. He's also often depicted as having a communication screen strapped to his chest so that the Chief can maintain contact with Cliff and the other members of the Doom Patrol. That's Robotman.
He's a fairly interesting character. I'm surprised to learn just how much he's been destroyed and resurrected.
Yeah, it's sort of his thing. He's the only Doom Patrol member to have been a member of every incarnation of the Doom Patrol. He's absolutely like the heart of the team.
I think that's my favorite thing about him, is that even though he looks the least human, he definitely has like the most human soul.
Yeah, in a strange way, he's sort of like the most normal one of the group.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about his character in the HBO Max TV show next week.
Yeah, I'm loving this season so far.
But first, let's get into the character of the Thing. The Thing is also like the big, lovable teddy bear of the Marvel Universe. His incredible strength approaches that of the Hulk's, but unlike the Hulk's temperamental nature, the Thing is level-headed and dependable, though he can also be a gruff, tough guy when he needs to be. He's the metaphorical caring uncle of the Fantastic Four family, though sadly he cannot transform at will into his human form like the rest of his team. His simultaneous piteous and admirable qualities make him one of Stan Lee's more emotionally compelling heroes. Benjamin Jacob Grimm was born to a poor Jewish family on Yancey Street in Manhattan's Lower East Side. The family's primary income came from Ben's older brother Daniel, who was the leader of a local gang. Ben idolized his brother, and as a young teen joined his brother's gang by being beaten in. He grew up streetwise and tough, often fighting alongside Daniel in skirmishes against rival street gangs. Their hard lifestyle caught up with them one day, though, when his brother was killed in a knife fight.
Ugh.
Ben's mother, Elsie, and his alcoholic father, Daniel Sr., perished soon after in an accident. Orphaned and homeless, Ben was sent to Arizona to live with his Uncle Jake and Aunt Petunia, far removed from the Yancey Street Gang and its influences. In high school, Ben became a star football player, earning the nickname Grim Reaper. He earned a full scholarship to Empire State University back in New York, where he became the genius prodigy Reed Richards' second roommate. Reed's first roommate being Victor Von Doom, which you can learn more about in our Superman vs. Dr. Doom episode and our Plastic Man vs. Mr. Fantastic episode. Ben and Reed became best friends, and Reed shared his dream of building a starship to space. Ben told him that if that ever happened, he would pilot the mission. After college, Ben joined the Air Force and became a top test pilot. On the day Ben left the military, he was contacted by Reed, who reminded him of his promise years earlier. At the time, Reed's experimental starship had its funding pulled from the government, and Reed decided to test it out on his own with his closest confidants. With Reed, Reed's scientist girlfriend Susan, and her gifted mechanic younger brother Johnny, Ben and the crew blasted off into space. The flight was successful until the spacecraft encountered a chance storm of cosmic radiation that bombarded the team and forced them back down to Earth. Everyone survived, but their DNA had been fundamentally altered by the cosmic rays, granting them superhuman abilities. Reed could become elastic, Susan could turn invisible, and Johnny could burst into flames. However, each of them could resume their normal forms at will. Ben, however, had permanently transformed into a disfigured rock creature, whom Susan called a Thing before realizing it was Ben. He became horrified at his monstrous appearance, and Reed vowed to scientifically find a way to restore Ben's human form, moving the team, now called the Fantastic Four, to his labs at the Baxter Building in New York City to research their developing powers. Together, they fought against such threats as the Mole Man, the Skrulls, and Dr. Doom, who was the Fantastic Four's greatest nemesis. Ben was grateful for his new family, but was severely depressed by his perceived freakish look. After battling a supervillain called the Puppet Master, Ben met the villain's daughter, a blind sculptor named Alicia Masters, and the two fell in love, as Alicia was able to recognize the warm soul underneath Ben's rocky exterior. With newfound confidence in himself, Ben fought back threats such as Galactus, the World Devourer, Annihilus of the Negative Zone, and Maximus, the Mad Inhuman. When Reed and Sue gave birth to their first child, Franklin, they asked Ben to be his godfather, and when they took a short hiatus to be parents, they left Ben in charge of the team, with Crystal and Ms. Marvel as the new members. Ben was among the heroes that sacrificed themselves to the villain Onslaught in order to stop the villain, though it was later revealed that he and those heroes were saved and put into a pocket dimension by Reed and Sue's son Franklin. Later, during the superhuman civil war between heroes who felt they should be held accountable by the government and people, and heroes who felt they should remain independent, the Fantastic Four were split. Reed was pro-registration, Sue and Johnny were anti-registration, and Ben refused to take sides, taking a brief trip to France before returning and dedicating his efforts to protecting civilians caught in the superhero battles. After the team reconciled, Annihilus and his Negative Zone army tried to invade Earth through a portal in the Baxter Building. Ben protected Reed and Sue's kids as Johnny sacrificed himself and stopped the invasion by sealing off the portal from the other side. With Johnny gone, the Fantastic Four refocused and became the Future Foundation, whose dedicated goal was to fix Earth's problems through scientific means. Together, they developed a serum that would let Ben transform into his human self for 1 week, once a year. They also constructed a raft to survive the end of the multiverse during the incursions of worlds. Dr. Doom saved all of reality by usurping the power of the omnipotent Beyonders, which you can learn more about in our Dr. Manhattan vs. Molecule Man episode. And Doom recreated all of reality into a patchwork planet called Battleworld, where Ben served as a shield to protect Battleworld's inhabitants from the Marvel Zombies reality. Eventually, Doom's power was given to Reed, who used it along with his wife and kids to restore reality and the multiverse. During that period of recreation, Ben and Johnny were left to their own devices on Earth. Ben briefly joined the Guardians of the Galaxy, but soon decided to return home and move on by proposing to Alicia Masters. Reed, Sue, and the family returned to Earth just in time for their small wedding ceremony, and Ben and Alicia spent their honeymoon together during the week he reverted back to human. Powers-wise, the Thing has vast strength and durability. His rock-like skin is actually more durable than any natural rock, and makes him highly resistant to impact forces. He has a Class 100 strength, meaning he can lift 100 tons with ease, though it should be noted that even Marvel has stated that those weights are not meant to be taken literally, as we've seen him lift a skyscraper weighing 30,000 tons before.
Holy cow.
The power grid is mainly used as a means of comparison between characters. Thing is also an experienced hand combatant, incorporating wrestling moves and boxing into his own brawler style of fighting. And that's the Thing.
His profile was like the last of the Fantastic Four members that we got around to, so it's kind of nice to sort of hear like that final piece of the puzzle for that team.
Yeah, they all had pretty different backstories before they joined up with each other, and they've all kind of gone their own separate ways off and on throughout the course of the Fantastic Four's history. But yeah, it's kind of a little bit bittersweet to have finished that final Fantastic Four member profile.
So now that we've gone over the characters' histories and abilities, let's speculate on how one of the 1,000 simulated matches will go. The winner is determined by simulations, not this speculation, but it's fun to imagine how this could play out. We don't set any rules for this match, other than the characters don't know anything about each other going in, except that the other character is a threat that needs to be put down. And they start off about 50 meters apart in an environment that has no bearing on the match itself, because we don't take stats for the environment.
Plus, certain characters have advantages in some environments over others, and we want these characters to win on their own merit. So let's get into it. The characters meet on the battlefield. Who goes first? I'm going to say that the Thing is going to go first, because he has a lot of courage, and he's pretty gung-ho. So he's like, it's clobbering time, and he leaps high up into the air and raises his fists up above his head and just slams him down as he lands, just laying out Robotman with a huge crash.
Oh, don't let Robotman's metal exterior fool you. He's pretty agile in that form, even though he may be kind of clunky in the show. So just as the Thing is about to land on top of him, Robotman just rolls out of the way.
Okay, but the thing still crashes into the ground and he creates like this seismic tremor that causes Robotman to like lose his footing as the ground kind of shakes beneath him. And in fact, the ground is tore up where the thing landed. And he picks up a giant rock and he just hurls it right at Robotman. And we're talking about a rock about the size of like a washing machine.
Okay, so because of this tremor, Robotman was probably, knocked to the ground. But because of all the rubble that came from it as well, he picks up his own rock and uses it as a shield to block the thing's boulder that he threw. Then, through all the dust that was like just created, Robotman just charges Thing, just plowing right into him, knocking him to the ground, and just starts wailing on him.
And Thing's like, sweet Aunt Petunia. He catches one of Robotman's fists and squeezes it, bending the metal just slightly and disforming Robotman's hand.
Luckily, Robotman doesn't feel pain or anything at all, so he just keeps using that deformed hand to continue wailing on the Thing.
Damn it. Well, then the Thing grabs both of Robotman's fists and headbutts Robotman right in the face, and then kicks him away, like high up into the air, and Robotman lands like 15 meters away.
Okay, so as Robotman slowly gets up, he detaches one of his arms, all right? And he like bends it in sort of like a slight angle at the elbow, and he throws it like a boomerang.
What?
And it just karate chops the Thing like right in the neck before spinning back towards Robotman, and he reattaches it.
Is that something that he's done from the comics?
Yes, it is.
Holy shit.
More than once.
Okay, all right, so Thing got a pretty good karate chop to his throat. Which is kind of hilarious. So now Thing is just like, he's pissed off.
Okay, so as the Thing is approaching him, that's when Robotman just like takes off one of his legs, bends it slightly at the knee, and hurls that too.
Well, Thing's not having it this time. He catches it out of midair, and he's like, honestly, who throws a shoe?
Robotman's just like, I'm gonna kick your ass! And as Thing is holding his leg, the leg just starts kicking him in the face.
So Thing grabs it, and he breaks Robotman's leg over his knee, and throws the pieces to the ground. And he leaps toward the one-legged Robotman, fists forward, grabbing him, and lifts him up into the air, and just power bombs him, just slams him straight into the ground. And this just shatters Robotman. It breaks apart all of his pieces, and they all go flying apart from each other across the battlefield. Pretty much ending this match.
You think so, huh?
Yeah.
So as the Thing walks away, seemingly victorious, on Robotman's chest screen, the Chief pops up and sees that Robotman's body pieces are just kind of like strewn everywhere.
What?
So he inputs the signal that causes the pieces to roll towards Robotman's torso, Iron Giant style.
Oh, I remember that movie. Yeah, the Iron Giant was destroyed, and then he set on his signal, and all of his pieces started like blinking, and they started like moving toward each other in whatever way they could, whether it was like rolling or like his shoe walking.
Exactly, so that's what happens here. And Robotman reconnects himself before leaping towards the Thing's back and putting him in a chokehold.
Oh, and the Thing is like shocked. He's like looking back and he sees Robotman's arm around him, and he's like, what a revolting development. And he starts like spinning around trying to swing Robotman off his body.
But before he can do that, Robotman starts heating up the coils that are in his palms and puts his hands right over the Thing's eyes, burning his eyes, blinding him.
His ever-loving blue eyes? Oh, God. Did not see that coming. Like, at first I was like, I'm not afraid of those heating coils. Like, what are they going to do against the Thing? But yeah, you could totally burn off Thing's eyes with those. Shit. All right, so Thing is blind from Robotman's heat hands. Well, Thing's freaking out about the loss of his eyesight, but, he has his adrenaline going, and he does a short hop into the air with Robotman still on his back, and he lands on his back, smashing Robotman into the ground and leaving him in this small Robotman crater in the ground. And Thing stands up, and he just kind of puts his hands out in front of him, trying to feel his way around.
Well, remember how you said that the Thing still had, like, a rock penis?
Yes?
Guess where he gets kicked?
In the penis?
In his rock balls. The royal stones.
No, not the pebbles. The Thing, like, grabs his rock sack and, like, falls to the ground, doubling over in pain.
At which point, Robotman stands up, raises both of his fists, and just slams Thing straight into the ground. Just like Thing did to him earlier.
Except Thing is not going to fall apart like Robotman did. And as Robotman keeps punching him, he's going to reach up and grab Robotman's shoulders and then grab his head and rip his head right off his body. And while he's still holding his head, He's going to crack his head open and rip it apart and just smash his brain into a pancake.
I mean, that thing's pretty well protected. Like, it's survived explosions before, just with the chases it's in. And since the thing is blind, it's going to take him time to find it. So I'm going to say that as the thing is disassembling Robotman's head, like a spring flies out and gets lodged into the thing's throat, causing him to choke and die before he can even reach the brain.
That's stupid. That's just stupid. Of all the ridiculous ways you could try to think of to come back from that, that had to be the most ridiculous.
It works, though. I mean, the Doom Patrol are all about what's ridiculous.
All right, well, let's go ahead and leave the match there. I say that the thing turns Robotman's brain into a pancake, and you say that Robotman suddenly becomes a choking hazard, as if the thing were under the age of 3.
Exactly.
Let's go ahead and take this match up to the simulations and run them and come back with a clear winner. We'll be right back. I think you're right. With how weird the Doom Patrol is, I could totally see something like what happened at the end of that speculation happening in this match.
I would hope so.
But that was a really fun match. I thought that the thing was just kind of like going to blow away Robotman and the stats, and I was like secretly harboring that, hoping that you were just naive. But I actually think that switched around on me, and I was maybe the naive one, because Robotman's stats appeared to be pretty on par with the Thing stats. They kind of compensate for each other in different areas.
Yeah, I mean, when it came to physical stats, the Thing was superior. Like when it came to durability and strength, especially strength.
Yeah, but Robotman is often listed as having the ability of enhanced speed, which the Thing doesn't. He runs as fast as about peak human. So we said that Robotman is just slightly faster than the Thing, which makes sense because, you know, he's a little bit smaller too and is able to move around a little bit easier. Thing obviously can cause much more damage through his strength, but Robotman has the added advantage of being able to use his body parts as short-range projectiles.
Which is kind of an absurd thing to take into consideration. But I was also trying to consider the different versions of Robotman that are out there, some of which have much more ranged capabilities.
Yeah, we didn't say like he was going into full energy blaster mode, but considering that he has had those abilities in the past, I think it kind of averaged out.
Yeah, to his slight advantage in range. But
Right.
Also, perception. There have been many versions of Robotman where he has enhanced senses like hearing and sight. So we had to average some of Robotman's stats. When it came to stats such as evasiveness, fighting skill, and intelligence, we said that the characters were on par. So taking all of this into consideration, Joseph, who do you think won?
I would have said it would be Thing in a landslide. Now I'm saying that it's still going to be Thing, but that it's going to be a pretty close match.
Well, it was fairly close in our Instagram and Facebook polls. 57% of the people who voted on social media agreed with you, saying that the Thing would come out on top.
Smart people.
And sometimes those results have been pretty close. But this time, they were also really close, because the Thing won 53.3% of the 1,000 matches.
Oh, awesome. Okay, yeah, that is closer than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be closer to like the 60% range, like the high 50s. 53 is still pretty low, but Robotman was just a better matchup than I thought he was going to be, honestly.
Yeah, Robotman won 46.7% of the matches, 467 of the 1,000 matches. Which, I'm not going to lie, I kind of saw that coming too. When it comes to the Thing,
He's just a powerhouse.
yeah, much more durable, much stronger than Robotman is. But I will say that Robotman has better catchphrases like, what the fuck, than the Thing's, you know, lame, outdated, it's Clobberin' time, and sweet Aunt Petunia. No one says those things.
That's, okay, you know what? I'll give you that one for sure. The way Brendan Fraser says, what the fuck, in Doom Patrol all the time is just, it's so damn hilarious. Yeah, he definitely has better catchphrases. But that does it for this duel. Let us know what you thought about the results by writing to us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com or by visiting us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Follow us on one of those platforms. You can find links to all of our accounts by visiting our website, dynamicduel.com.
And on our site, you can also find a link to our Patreon page where we offer bonus content. Check that out right after this episode. Also on dynamicduel.com is a link to our merch store where we sell t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, and more with our Dynamic Duel no price artwork. This week, as a tie into our last episode, Green Lantern versus Iceman, I will be drawing Iceman.
Yes.
And I'll save Robotman for next week.
Yeah, I'm excited for your Iceman drawing. I think that's going to be really cool. Literally. I think I already made that joke in our last episode.
You did. We want to remind everyone again to please subscribe to our show if you haven't, or please leave a rating or review on your platform of choice. Sharing this show on social media or in person is also a big help to us.
But that does it for this episode, guys. We want to give a big thanks to our executive producers, Jace, Crump, and John Speas, for helping make this podcast possible. And we will talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, when, as we mentioned earlier, we'll be reviewing Doom Patrol Season 2.
So if you guys haven't watched that show at all, I really can't recommend it enough. It is it is absolutely one of the best superhero television shows I've ever seen. Not necessarily for its action, but for its comedy and its emotional themes. It's just a really well-made program.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking about it. We didn't get to review Season 1, but we'll be touching on points from that season as we review Season 2 next week. So look forward to that. Without further ado, up, and away.
True believers.